Good. Excellent. Greatest day ever. All right, we're basically going to go over somebody's life. Now I want everybody to close their eyes.
Uh-oh.
Picture a nice pond, probably out in the Midwest. Probably like down at the park by the Gander Mountain or whatever. Now all of a sudden, BAM! A giant rock hits the pond. There's rippling effects going across the water. Now you can all open your eyes. Think of the pond as life, the giant rock as certain events. The ripple effects are ways life changes.
Pretty deep.
Yeah.
That is deep.
Deep stuff. All right, now in the words of Nick, you may be wondering, why do I want to know this? Why is this my problem? What is your problem? Because you're going to have to deal with somebody for the next 5 to 15 years until they're eligible for retirement. Okay, in the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to go over Mark's life, subdivided into where he lived and the people at these places and the events at these places that affected him. In Minnesota, growing up, in Texas, the UK, Minnesota again, New York, and then Wisconsin. All right, how many people here have been to the Midwest? Just making sure you're paying attention. Okay, starting off in Minnesota here. Mark grew up on a pig farm, which could kind of explain some stuff to Nick, because Nick is included in Mark's video. Learned hard work and everything, all that good stuff from his dad. Mark went to school at New Prague High School, home to the Trojans. So we're one of the only high school teams named after a condom. All right, anybody, we all went through the four lenses yesterday. So Mark was a very green personality in school. Mark liked to spend a lot of time building little model airplanes, reading books. Mark actually read a lot of his parents' encyclopedia collection while all his friends were doing sporting events or going to dances and stuff like that. Mark liked reading encyclopedias and kind of keeping to himself. Mark also had a little bit of a problem with his metabolism. He would eat and eat and eat, but he was a weakling. He only weighed like $120 and he was like 6 feet high. The only problem is that attracted some guy named Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas is a local urban youth of New Prague. Mike Thomas liked to pick on people to impress members of the opposite sex. One day, Mark was coming back from Phi Ed and walked into the locker room. Mark noticed a strong smell. It smelled like ass, basically. Mark noticed his locker is Loctited, and his locker, about this big. He saw brown substance in the back. Turned out somebody took a crap in the back of his locker and Loctited his locker shut. Mark had to spend about the next 2 hours in PT gear, and then he asked his high school teacher, "Hey, Mr. Shepley, somebody took a shit in my locker." What did I do? "Well, Mark, I'll go get the janitor. Cut the lock." I'm like, "Okay." And Mark was like, "Okay." No, are you gonna at least? I think I know who did this. Are you gonna at least like talk to him or something? Boys will be boys. It's all about good fun. Mike Thomas came up to me in the lunchroom and was like, "Hey, no, I heard somebody took a. Why are you still in your PT gear? You got stuck out of your locker?" Mark was pretty much pissed. Mark went home back to the house that night, and Mark was like, "You know what? Now I was just gonna become like some history teacher and just go off to college. Mark wants to make a change instead of going through life just having people just take giant shits on him." Mark decided to go into the military, basically the Air Force, kind of connected with model airplanes, but he really didn't know what he was getting into. Right, can anybody tell me what inspired Mark to join the military and make a life change?
Somebody taking a crap in his locker.
Exactly. Somebody taking that crap in somebody's locker could have that great of an effect. It's like Mark is friends with Mike Thomas on Facebook today. See, I thank him for that.
Sounds like taking a crap in somebody's 55 feet. Oh,
All right, Mark, like everybody else in this room, Mark went off to Texas to get his did an enlistment, went to Lackland Air Force Base to go through basic training. Everybody went through that, so no great story there. Went off to Shepherd Air Force Base to learn survival equipment. No, what's so great about that is Mark's scheduling got screwed up somehow. Some paper pushers screwed stuff up. Somebody from the guard got Mark's slot. So Mark was stuck forever in an area doing what's called details, picking up garbage and everything. Mark one day stopped doing, did too good at it and cleaned up the area. Mark got yelled at by an MTL. So Mark learned, always look busy, especially if you're an E4 or below. Can anybody tell me why is it important to look busy?
They leave you alone.
They leave you alone, exactly. All right, Mark moved on to his first duty station, RAF Mildenhall, worked on KC-135, MH-53 helicopters. Mark's feeling old right now because he retired that. Combat control party, and he packed parachutes for PJs as well. The most important thing to come out of this was the decision. One day, Mark happened to be walking fast in Class 6. At the Class 6, they sell alcohol. Mark ran into a good friend of his, D-Dog, I'll use his name, and K-Dog, his fiance at the time. They wanted Mark, they were like, hey, what are you doing? No, not much. See this bottle, gigantic bottle of wine about this big? Let's put all our money together and buy this thing. I'm like, okay. Or Mark was like, okay. So we got this together. We decided to start drinking while watching a movie about Mount Everest. And we were going along, and Mike's, my friend, Mark's friend's wife decided, hey, let's add some ouzo into the mix. So we drank ouzo, a Mediterranean drink that tastes like black licorice. We finished the whole bottle of wine. Mark was feeling pretty toasty, and we decided to go bowling at the bowling alley. Got in there, Mark was getting his bowling shoe, and noticed, was feeling a little dizzy. His friend had a good idea. Hey, let's pop a dip in. Mark was like, okay. Come on, you want to intensify the buzz, pop a double one in, okay? Come on, quadruple the buzz, pop a quad in. 2 uppers, 2 lowers. The bowling alley started going around like a gerbil. The ceiling was in front of Mark's face. Mark threw up into his bowling shoe. The bowling alley manager said, Mark, get out of here, you're 86th. Trail the puke all the way back to Mark's dorm room. Mark split a dorm room with somebody else at the time. Mark had to throw up in the toilet. Mark's dorm room mate, or piss mate, or whatever you want to call him, liked everything to be really neat. He was a neat freak. Mark's stomach started gurgling, like he had to defecate. Mark had to make a quick decision. Do I rotate my body, vomit all over the floor, pissing my neighbor off, or do I just defecate in my pants so I can avoid conflict? Mark, being a dream personality, hates conflict. Mark defecated in his pants. So split the section.
I can't even handle
Oh,
my God.
Can anybody tell me what the decision taught Mark?
not to
You have dirty underwear.
bottle with Ouzo 7.
There's so many decisions that could
All right, the grass looked greener on the other end. Mark wanted to be a civilian. He was getting tired of the structure. Civilian life didn't work out too well for him. He was making $9 an hour from Saudi Airlines. So Mark ended up having to move back to the farm and live on his parents' couch. Mark decided to join the 133rd Airlift Wing, the C-130H. At the 133rd Airlift Wing, Mark remembered a lot that he learned from active duty. He spent all night ironing his uniform and shining his boots. Oh, God. Mark has to make a great first impression to the NCIC. The NCIC comes in. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you. Mark goes in his office. You're making us all look bad. We had an active duty guy here. I made sure he didn't last very long. How about you go in the bathroom, roll around on the floor, and scuff those boots up? Mark had to learn a lesson about adaptability, for better or for worse. Mark eventually became a full-time, temporary technician, but they just didn't want to give him that full-time job with all the good benefits. They kind of used him. So Mark decided to start applying for whatever was open. Can anybody tell me about adaptability and what you learn, for better or for worse? Anybody? Creators.
Did it.
Yeah, I did it. That's wrong. All right, Mark ended up going there's a slot open in New York, at Newburgh. If anybody's ever been there, that's kind of a rough area. So Mark ended up moving to Wallkill, which is kind of like trash. Another rough area. Mark worked for the 105th Airlift on the C-5A Galaxy, which is a gigantic airplane which is an absolute pain to work on. Mark didn't really like this area. Didn't like the area, didn't like the unit, hated the airplane. So Mark decides to apply for intrastate transfer to the rescue wing so he could deploy. Can anybody tell me why Mark might have wanted to leave the unit?
Because the grapple.
Exactly, hated the C-5.
A lot of equipment.
Mark goes on to Long Island, New York. Lived in Wading River. Worked with the 106th Rescue Wing, MH-60s, HC-130s, and his favorite, the Pararescue. Coming into New York, I was still upstate. I get an email. Hi, my name is Carrie. Jen is making me do this. I have to help you adjust to life in Long Island and find a place to live. Any questions, call. So I called her and I'm like, hey, is there any crime in Wading River and what are the crime rates? Because I'm coming out of dump. She's like, first of all, dumbass, it's Wading River. Second of all, there's not much crime. Everybody out here is rich. It's Long Island, so you don't have to worry about, urban youths or whatnot. So I ended up moving out there. Okay, then she had to give me a tour of the base. Walking me around the base, I wasn't saying much. I was trying to figure everybody out. And then she's like, why the hell are you so freaking quiet? What's wrong with you? And I explained my green personality and everything. As Nick can attest, eventually we became best friends. She became a really good friend, gave me a lot of advice that I should have listened to, mainly regarding somebody named Socks, who happened to be a love interest of mine for the past since 2007 when I initially graduated instructor school in 2007 in Texas, fly back to New York. Everything's shut down. I'm hungry, I have to eat, so I go to a place called J&R's Steakhouse. Socks happens to be my waitress. We began as friends and it eventually spiraled into a romantic relationship that's been on and off again since 2007 and even followed me here for a short time. Carrie came in and said, hey, you're making a huge mistake. Obviously I didn't listen and I got screwed over again. But that's a whole nother story that I could do a whole nother slideshow about. While in New York, Socks decided it was a good idea to move to Arizona with some dude. So she took off. So now she's out of my life. Then, now I'm more serious. Mark's father got a really bad disease called Parkinson's. This is going to be a long ordeal, so Mark decided, hey, it's time to leave and start applying for other jobs closer to home. Yes.
Why do you call her Socks?
I'll talk to you offline about that. Alright, can anybody tell me why Mark decided to go to Wisconsin?
Because it's
Your
dad.
family.
Yeah, combination of issues.
Family and stuff.
Got to Wisconsin, went to the Madison, the excellent 115th Fighter Wing, F-16C, and what Mark has to deal with mostly, the horrible F-16D model, which I'm thinking shot to depot. I hate that thing. Even though he got to fly it, was cool, but for the rest of it, he hates the F-16D. While in Wisconsin, from day one, Mark was walking down the hallway while Senior Master Sergeant Finnerty was giving him a tour. A guy ran up to him named Nick Matson. He's like, hey, are you from Minnesota? Mark was like, yeah. You like the Twins? You like sports? Yeah, sure, whatever. Okay, great. Hey, yeah, Senior, we need to hire this guy. Plus, yeah, his boss, she's cute. Hire this guy. I heard him saying that. So, luckily I got hired, I think, based on Nick Matson's advice. Also, with Nick Matson, he's a guy who likes to get stuff done, no matter how dangerous it is. Does this look safe? Probably not. It's probably out of regulations. I think the mat's less than 4 inches. There's a ladder involved that fell over, the guy almost fell. And then he's aiming too high, it's probably above 48 inches. But he doesn't care because he needs to get stuff done. He's like an orange personality. He likes just to go fast, get stuff done. He likes to drive fast, do all sorts of stuff. He gets lots of speeding tickets from what I hear. Nick Manson, I'm coming in here, I'm a green personality. I never worked fighter, so it's like trying to relearn my job, doing all this, learning aces, all drugs, and all that good fun stuff. So like, Mark's getting nervous. Mark's in the TOs. Mark's all scared and everything. Nick Manson was like, Mark, you gotta get this done, you gotta get this done. So Mark learned to go a little faster using Nick's advice, but going against Nick's advice, Mark always followed the TO.
Ow. Hear that bus run me over?
So can anybody tell me what does Nick Manson like to do?
Go
Not
fast.
solve
Stuff
the
done.
rules.
Go
Get
fast.
stuff done. Bam. Exactly. Right, before I go into my conclusion, does anybody have any questions? Anybody?
You never explained socks.
True.
You said offline.
Socks is basically like my jet. Think of Marcus Forrest Gump, and she's his Jenny.
Aww.
Any other questions?
Doesn't explain why you call her socks.
We'll talk about that offline.
You need socks in your life.
You said right, hold it away.
Any other questions?
No.
Right, and basically, what we went over in a nutshell was Mark's life divided into where he lived. Minnesota, Texas, the UK, Minnesota, New York, and then finally in good old cheese state, Wisconsin. And the people he met along the way, and different effects, like different giant rocks hidden in that pond along the way. All right. Obviously, you have to deal with this character for the next 5 to 20, 15 years. So that's why you may want to take heed to this lesson. This concludes my lesson on the goofball named Mark. Thank you for having the patience to sit here. That is it.